that initial stroke was misdiagnosed as anxiety-induced, basically, and I was sent home with anxiety meds. I know. It's something a lot of women can relate to, as I'm sure you know.
I was just going to say, why does every woman just have anxiety?
I know. And the thing is, like, I do have anxiety, but I was also having a stroke.
Two things can be true.
Exactly.
Hello, and welcome to a new episode of What It's Really Like with me, your host, Molly Burke, where we have interesting conversations with interesting people. And my guest is certainly that. We have Chan here today. And Chan, I start every interview with the same question. Who is Chan?
Oh, such a simple one.
I'm going to ease you in.
I love that. Chan is, just a fun, quirky gal who lost an eyeball and is trying to make it look cute, as one does.
And you're succeeding, may I say.
Thank you.
This is the first interview I've done for this show, and probably the last I'll do for this show, where I asked somebody to bring some eyeballs with them.
I brought you so many eyeballs. I drove with 15 eyeballs in the car, precious cargo, baby on board, that kind of vibe. And they're here in the studio today.
Okay, wait. How many eyeballs do you have total at this point?
I think I have about 15. Some of them are what we call conformers. So they don't hold my eye open all the way. They're kind of just like a shell to protect the socket, but they're still really cool to look at. They're all glittery and they have, all types of stuff. One of them has snake skin. I've got everything.
Are you talking you have an eyeball with real snakeskin or a snakeskin pattern?
Real snakeskin. Don't ask me how my ocularis got it. Don't ask. It wasn't my idea. She sent it in the mail and I was like, is this real? And she was like, don't ask, don't tell.
Shut up. Okay, we are going to get into all of it, but I feel like before we get into all your crazy eyeball adventures, we need to back the truck up.
Great.
So tell me about your childhood.
Okay, yes. So I grew up a military brat, so we were always moving all over the place, like South Korea, Alaska, all different places. So I was kind of like an anxious kid because I was always having to move around and make new friends. And that was kind of stressful, as you can imagine. I was kind of shy, which people probably wouldn't expect from me in my online presence. But I was always very into fairies and mermaids and princesses. I was in my own realm totally. And I think a part of that has never really left me. I'm definitely still a whimsical gal at heart. I think that's reflected in my eyeballs and my eye patches and the way that I've tried to navigate this very crazy medical story that's happened to me. So, yeah, that's baby Chan. She was kind of an oddball, reading in her room and trying to keep it together as her family moved across the country and even out of it. So now we're here, thriving.
Well, we love a bit of whimsy here.
Yes.
I am all about the whimsy. And I feel like you were way too humble and you're like, I'm just a girl with fun eyeballs. That's me. You have such a fun online presence. You kind of touched on that. But I feel like the fun online presence you have has a bit of a dark backstory to how you kind of came to be sharing your story. And you alluded to it a bit of a crazy medical story.
Mm-hmm.
So from having a military brat upbringing, kind of being a fun whimsy princess girl, to having a life-changing medical event in your early 20s. Can you tell us what happened?
Definitely. It's so wild because I was always the person in my family who never got sick. My family doesn't have any strange medical issues. I just never thought I'd ever have anything weird happen to me. I was always healthy my whole life up until I was 21. And then December 2020, I get COVID, which, big bummer. No one wants to get COVID. But I thought I would recover because I was so young and I had no prior medical history.
How old were you?
I was 21 years old.
21.
Yeah. This is December of 2020, yeah. So, 3 months later, I have my first ischemic stroke, which doesn't usually happen to 21-year-olds. An ischemic stroke is like when your brain's not getting enough oxygen. So it's really, really weird that this would be happening to someone so young. It's something that usually happens when you're older and like your brain has just like built up more blockages in the arteries, you know? So, you know, that initial stroke was misdiagnosed as anxiety induced, basically, and I was sent home with anxiety meds. I know. It's something a lot of women can relate to, as I'm sure you know.
I was just going to say, why does every woman just have anxiety?
I know. I know. And the thing is, like, I do have anxiety, but I was also having a stroke.
Two things can be true.
Exactly. So 3 months after that, I had a second stroke, of course, because nothing had happened to fix what was going on. And at that time, this is now June of 2021, my ex-boyfriend was with me. So he was able to advocate on my behalf and be like, no, 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 no. She really needs to have some tests ran. Like, we need to get to the bottom of what is happening. So they run the tests and they see what's going on. And I end up having to get 3 stents put in my head to hold my arteries open because for some reason they've closed to be like 0.5 millimeters in diameter, which is so small. That's not what your arteries are supposed to be, you know? And it's such a strange feeling to be like, oh my God, I was like basically dying and I didn't even know it. I was like working in a restaurant, you know? I just graduated college. December 2020, I graduated college. It's just so weird. Like all of this stuff was happening to me and I never would have anticipated it. So I go through all of this stroke stuff. And then from my hospital bed, I'm applying to jobs, you know, because I want to continue my career.
Can't keep a girl down.
You can't keep a girl down. And that's like how, you know, how a lot of us are raised to just like keep pushing through whatever it is that we experience, any pain, any hardship. So that's what I did. And I got a job at People magazine. So I moved to New York shortly after getting all the stunts in my head. And I thought I was done. I was like, okay, that was awful.
Crazy chapter of my life is over.
Right. I was like, let's just move past that and forget it ever happened.
Have your Carrie Bradshaw life in New York.
Yes. I wanted the like Kate Hudson, How to Lose a Guy in 10 Days lifestyle, 100%. And I thought I would have it. Like I went to school for magazine journalism, you know. I had this job at People magazine. I was like, it's all happening. You know, strokes in the past. Let's just keep it pushing. And then I woke up one day and my eye was starting to hurt. And like from above my eyebrow all the way back to like the middle of my scalp on the right side, it was just numb. And I knew from having 2 strokes, probably not a good sign.
Like if you like touched the skin, it was numb?
That's right. Yeah.
Interesting.
Really weird, right?
Yeah.
So I go to the ER, they do some tests, and they find that there's something like a big ball, basically, behind my right eye. And they're like, okay, we think this is a meningioma, which is like a benign brain tumor. And I'm like, okay, slay. Like, we can remove that. They can remove that, no problem. Easy peasy. Call my mom. We get on a plane to go back to Arizona because, you know, I'm not dealing with a brain tumor by myself. I think I'm still 21, maybe 22 at this point. I'm broke. Like, I'm not going to do all this in New York by myself. Are you kidding? So no, we're on a plane. We're going back to get this all situated with my doctors. And when I wake up from that flight, I have no vision in my right eye. And I'm like, okay, well, let's not panic. My mom and my dad are at work, so I'm alone in the house. And I'm just kind of like annoyed. I'm annoyed that I can't see. I can't pet my dogs. Like, it's like my depth perception's a little off, you know?
Oh, I know all about a lack of depth perception. I've never had depth perception in my life. So I know all about that struggle.
Yeah.
I just thought everybody saw the world as flat.
Really?
Yeah. When I would go to 3D movies as a kid, I was like, I don't get it.
Oh,
like, it looks like a movie. Like, I was so confused by people, like, putting the glasses on and being like, oh my God, and then the lion came out of the screen. I was like, what is everybody on about?
You're like, this is such a waste of money.
Yeah, no, genuinely, I was like, none of this makes sense. So I totally get. Did they warn you that you might wake up and not be able to see.
No one had said anything about that because they weren't even thinking in terms of eye loss and vision. They were thinking it had something to do with the brain still. They were thinking it was like strokes and meningioma and, I don't even think they thought I was going to lose vision. So, I mean, obviously, or they wouldn't have discharged me. But, yeah. And I mean, I was at like a really prestigious hospital in New York City. It's not like I just went any old place. And this is still like a peak COVID time. It's 2021. Like there's an immense shortage of medical personnel. I had a roommate in the hospital. So, you know, I do feel some frustration with the fact that like people didn't take more time with me, but also I'm like, that's the way of the world at that time. And people don't understand that unless they were in the hospitals during COVID, but it was brutal. I mean, it was really brutal.
Were you able to have family with you? Because I remember hearing stories about people going into hospital during that time and not being able to have any loved ones around them.
Yeah, no. I mean, a little bit later, so this is 2021, I was able to have one person with me. So it had to be my mom or my dad, and they took turns. But yeah, so after I lost vision, I Ubered myself to the hospital, and it was like totally a mess because of COVID. Like people were dying, and it was just the hospitals were overrun. So I waited in the waiting room, having just lost vision, for 12 hours, and no one would help me. Like there was no one who was able to help me because, I was relatively stable, all things considered. And
I feel like any other time that somebody walked into an emergency room was like, I woke up and I'm blind in one eye, that would be like rushed. I feel like
I
that would be
know.
like an absolute medical emergency. So to have you sit there for 12 hours alone, twiddling your thumbs,
Mhm.
I can only imagine what a stressful experience that was.
Well, and that's what I thought too. I wasn't stressed out until that point because I was like, okay, the doctor's going to fix it. Like, I'm going to go in, they're going to get me in, and they're just going to fix it. And I was just so naive because there I was, some poor tech is trying to get my IV in. There's blood everywhere. I'm sitting on a stretcher in the hallway. The nurse is threatening to quit on the spot because there's so many people. A doctor's walking past me like, oh, another dead patient. Like it was just so insane. And like, yeah, I shouldn't have been seen because people were dying. Like I was fine, to be fair, for the moment. But I ended up leaving against medical advice, AMA, and going to a different, larger hospital. But they couldn't operate on me because I had just had 2 strokes and I was on all these blood thinners. So it was just a total mess. And all this to say, the mass behind my eye was not a meningioma. It was what's called a granuloma, which is basically just a big old mass of tissue. And it continued to grow bigger and bigger and bigger. And as that happened, my right eye continued to basically be pushed further and further out of my head. And I think at the worst, it was about 27 millimeters out of my eye socket. So I looked very visibly different. And that was really painful, for one. Having your eyeball pushed out of your head is not comfortable, to be sure. But also just living like that, living with such a visible difference. It was really hard. And I really wanted to keep my eye. I was so convinced I could make it better. And I just couldn't. I just couldn't. And eventually it got to a point where I was like, I have to say goodbye, you know?
I followed you through this whole journey.
Mm.
I found you on TikTok very early on in your journey and kind of watched you process everything
Yeah.
and watched you continually be so resilient and have so much optimism and try every path possible
Yes.
and continue to get bad news
Yes.
and remain positive. And it was incredible to see you go through all of that with such like strength and positivity. And I wouldn't be surprised if like your background of being a military brat and like constantly having to adapt and change and be resilient throughout your childhood to try to make new friends and try to learn your new environment and accept your reality that you had no control over, kind of helped you in those moments going through this medical process to like tap into that energy.
That's so sweet. Yeah, I mean, I've always been a very resilient kid. It's like my parents nicknamed me the Mighty Mite growing up because I was always kind of feisty and like they put me in gymnastics and I was like so competitive and like backbending across the floor, like just very determined and very resilient. So that's one characteristic I think I just had straight out the womb. And I'm grateful for it. I do definitely think, the military lifestyle helped. But thank goodness, because I don't know where I'd be if I wasn't a little tough to endure some of this nonsense.
You certainly went through a lot. That was like an overview, and I want to get granular.
Let's
I
do
want to
it.
get into it because I am certain there's a lot of people who listen to this podcast who have been through similar situations. Not your exact situation, because yours is very specifically rare, but have had a lot of medical trauma, have had to go jumping through hoops to get diagnoses, have had really rare circumstances, have had to go through feeling and looking visibly different. So I feel like there's so much that I and my audience can learn from your story and also relate to. So I want to get into it, and I want to back up to COVID.
Yeah.
To getting COVID, you're 21.
Mm-hmm.
It's December of 2020.
Yeah.
So we've been in it for like 10 months at that point,
Yeah.
8 months.
Yeah, exactly.
There's no vaccines.
That's right. And
I want to get so clear about that for everyone.
Thank you. That's the number one question I get.
There was no vaccines. You get COVID with no prior health issues.
Mm-hmm.
So you do not have a weak immune system. You do not have autoimmune issues. You do not have anything that would make you susceptible to COVID being significantly worse than an average flu.
That's right.
What was your COVID like?
That's such a good question. Thank you for asking that and for making all of those disclaimers. My COVID was fairly mild, which is not entirely unusual for people with what we call long COVID, which is basically just a blanket statement for anyone who's dealt with complications of COVID for longer than 6 months. My case was fairly mild. I had some difficulty breathing. It's probably the biggest thing. I remember like going up and down the stairs in my house and being winded, but I didn't have a fever. It was very uncomfortable for me. Have you had COVID before?
I have.
Yeah, it was like an uncomfortable experience, definitely kind of unlike anything I've been through before. But, in the first couple of weeks afterwards, I was like, okay, full recovery. I'm feeling great. And then I started to get numbness in my hands and my forearms, and I developed this really terrible chronic headache, which I don't usually get headaches ever, and it wouldn't go away. And so that was the beginning of the stroke, the stroke history coming up, my arteries starting to stenose, as they say, which is to say growing smaller. But yeah, I thought I was just going to be fine and get over it, no problem.
What did the headaches feel like?
I don't miss them at all. Headache pain, it was closer to a migraine, and migraine havers know it's hellish. I mean, seriously. It felt like some days it was like burning, like more of a burning sensation. As, the thing behind my eye grew bigger and bigger, it caused some nerve pain. So that's what the burning was. But the headache itself in the earliest stages was just like something that I thought was fine. It's something that, women were told to deal with it, take some Tylenol, definitely wasn't worse than IUD pain or like half the stuff I've dealt with as a woman. So I was so shocked when I realized like, no, this actually isn't normal,
I think as women, we are so used to just living with pain.
That's right.
We literally get period cramps every single month.
Right. Like I grew up in high school seeing my friends throw up because their period cramps were so painful. And now I have a headache. Like, okay, I just took Tylenol, you know?
And as you said, like I also had an IUD insertion
Mhm.
and was not in any way prepared by the doctor for how absurdly painful that was going to be and like quite literally traumatic. Like
Same.
that traumatized me the way I am terrified of getting pap smears
Mm.
because of that. And I'm like,
Well,
it just, we're just told, like, it, you guarantee if that was a man's procedure, they would either be put to sleep or they would be given some serious narcotics to help ease the pain. And women are told take an Advil.
literally. Actually, though, because, yeah, then I have a diagnosis, the stroke, and I start getting pain management right away for these headaches that I'm like, okay, not even that big of a deal compared to everything else I've been through. IUD insertion, yeah, like 10 times worse, but they're not giving me any pain management for that. So it was just interesting to see that, like, the pain I've experienced in my life is actually not really acceptable in a lot of different areas of the medical realm.
Well, when it's like a
So
woman specific
that's
pain, we
right.
can put up with it. But when it's something like, say, a stroke, they're
Right.
like, oh, this is an everybody's pain thing. We should take this seriously.
Exactly. So it was really weird. Like, I've had a lot of moments of validation in this journey where I'm like, oh my gosh, my pain is really valid. And it wasn't me just being all in my head. It's just disappointing that it took so long to get to that point. And again, it's a systemic issue because, there was a a contrast shortage, for the MRIs with contrast. That's usually how they see if you're having an ischemic stroke. So they weren't able to do that necessarily during COVID times when so many people are unwell. And I'm a healthy 21-year-old, the probability of me having an ischemic stroke is next to none. I'm not saying they shouldn't have done it. Obviously, I was presenting as having a stroke. They should have done every little thing. But yeah, there wasn't enough supplies. There weren't enough medical personnel. The hospitals were overrun. So that's more of how I feel about that situation. I'm not really mad at any one specific doctor, you know what I mean? So yeah, it's a frustration at the system. It's a
Mm-hmm.
frustration at how COVID was handled. And it's a frustration at how many women are told it's just anxiety.
Yes. Speaking of frustration at the system,
Mm-hmm.
the first thing that comes to my mind, because I was raised in Canada
Mm-hmm.
and I've lived in America now for almost 9 years. And a big culture shock of coming here was health insurance. I
Yes.
grew up with socialized healthcare and I grew up with multiple disabilities and chronic illnesses and seeing medical experts since 6 months old.
Mm.
And that would have likely bankrupted my family had I grown up here.
Yeah.
And so the first thing that comes to my mind when I hear healthy 21-year-old, COVID times, going through all of these crazy health issues,
Mm-hmm.
did you have health insurance?
Such a good question. So yes, my dad was in the military, so he had very good insurance, and I was a dependent of his up until I was 26, and I just turned 26. So thanks, Dad. But yeah, that's a really real point. I mean, without insurance, my medical bills are literally millions and millions of dollars, which is
It's
unbelievable.
mind-blowing to think about.
It's mind-blowing to think about. And I still, like, to this day, working a job, full-time job with a disability and a chronic illness, like, with good health insurance in California, which has good health care, I still am paying off medical debt, like, still to this day. It's a price that my able-bodied friends, like, they don't have to pay that, you know?
The disability tax is very real. Like, there's
Mhm.
so many forms that disability tax takes on for different people.
Yeah. And I've considered not going to the hospital before because I wasn't sure how my insurance was going to play out. Like when I had just turned 26 and I hadn't figured out, insurance is confusing. I hadn't figured out how my coverage was going to be. I didn't want to go to the hospital. And yeah, just it's so upsetting that that's how it is here. I
Mhm.
mean, what was that like for you to have to deal with that switch? I'm sure it was, like, awful.
The first time I had that experience of realizing how privileged I was to grow up
Mhm.
with socialized healthcare and not have to think about walking to the doctor was when I was in India. And
Mm.
I was 19 years old. I was on a work trip and I was around 2.5 hours away from a hospital. And I got severely ill. And I sat there for like at least a day or two trying to decide whether it was worth going to a hospital because I'm very far away from any hospital. I will have to pay out of pocket, and I had no concept of how much that would be.
Mm.
And I realized if I was back home in Toronto, immediately I would go to a walk-in clinic. I wouldn't think twice about going to a walk-in clinic. And here I am in like severe pain, fever, chills, can hardly speak, and I'm like, maybe it'll go away. Like it did not. Spoiler, I needed a ton of antibiotics and had to go to the hospital multiple more
Oh,
times
no.
after that. But it was a realization of like, wow, I am so fortunate. And when I moved here, I got health insurance. I pay out of pocket for my own health insurance. And that was a non-negotiable for me
Mm.
because I knew that was just being a disabled woman, like, I was gonna need to tap into that at some point.
Mhm.
But it was every time I go to a doctor, like, I'm scared because I'm like, what's the copay gonna be? Like, I'm so
Yeah.
confused by it all, and genuinely, I feel like they make it confusing on purpose.
Yeah. 100% they do. I mean, like, what did I have done? I had an angiogram, which is just you go in and they, like they just, like, shoot some dye in your veins to see how the blood circulates in your body. That's the TLDR, and they were like, "Okay, that'll be $400, please. Like, give me your card." And I was like, "Okay, like, but I have insurance." They're like, "Yeah, that's with insurance, like, hand it over." I'm like, "Oh my god, like, I'm 26, like, I have no money, what do you mean?"
No, I feel that, like, still like, I still every single time that I feel like there might be a reason I should go to the doctor, I'll, like, wait it out a little bit.
Mhm.
And again, back home in Canada, I would have never waited. Like, anything pops up, I'm like, off I go to the walk-in clinic, like, which
Yeah.
is our kind of version of urgent care.
Okay, yeah.
Like, it's just, like, we call them walk-in clinics. You can just pop on in and see a random doctor, and they'll run all the tests you need.
That's so interesting.
And we have them they're, like there's multiple in most like, suburban towns. Like, my hometown had, like, at least 3 or 4 of them, and, you just pop in at any sign of an issue.
The argument I always hear is like, "Oh, well, it takes so long to see a doctor with universal healthcare or socialized medicine." And I'm like, "You guys, it takes so long to see a specialist or a doctor here also.
So,
Promise."
it does take longer unless it's, like, an emergency.
Uh-huh.
Like, I remember, I was dealing with severe vertigo. I've had
Oh,
vertigo since I was, I think, like, wanna say, like, 17 or 18,
yeah.
and it was my first bout of getting vertigo,
Mhm,
and I have, like, drop vertigo. So, like,
mhm.
when I get vertigo, I will, like, fall to the ground
Oh, no.
on and my world flips to the right. It's always flipped to the right.
Mm.
All of a sudden, out of nowhere, it's just like the whole world falls to the right, and I think especially
Awful.
because I'm blind, I don't have balance,
Yeah.
and I can't, like, spot anything, so I end up struggling even more, and I'll, like, trip or fall over, and it was obviously very scary suddenly dealing with that out of nowhere,
Yeah.
so I went to the emergency room, and they, like, immediately got me in for an MRI. So, like, when it is deemed as, like, an emergency, I think I got, like, my MRI within 24 hours of going to the ER.
Mm.
But if I was to go to my family doctor and she thought I needed an MRI, it might take 6 weeks or 3 months or,
Mhm.
like, they prioritize.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
they'll, like, create space for people where they're, like, concerned it's an urgent issue, like, there might be cancer or
Yeah.
something like that. So it varies, but yes, like there's always going to be pros and cons to everything.
Yeah, totally.
I feel like a hybrid system is always interesting to me where like say like in the UK, like you can go to NHS, you can go to government funded healthcare, or you can go to private healthcare.
I love
So
that.
it's like you've got the choice.
I think that'd be great. If there's an option that won't bankrupt people, I think people would do that even if they have to wait a little longer.
What I always find interesting is I feel like a lot of people who are against the idea of any kind of socialized healthcare, I feel like oftentimes they're the same people who will donate to a GoFundMe for somebody's medical issues.
Or start one themselves.
And I'm like, don't you realize that that's what, like, you're essentially giving to what is socialized healthcare when you donate to things like that?
I know.
And none of us would ever have to donate to them.
I know. And I just don't want people to have to go through what I went through because I was very, very lucky. Like my dad working for the government, has the best healthcare money can buy. So it's like, odds are you probably won't be in the situation I was in with that level of coverage.
And at such a young age,
Yeah.
that can ruin the rest of your life.
Yeah.
When you're already dealing with trauma, with pain, with all of these complications, to then also bankrupt yourself, the way I feel like that would make people mentally spiral.
Yes. And to be clear, like I also paid my medical bills at that time, but like without my dad's help, I would have been bankrupt. Yeah, 100%. And I also, while dealing with pain, was lucky enough to be working a 9-to-5 remote job, which also a lot of people dealing with a disability and a chronic illness probably wouldn't be able to do. Like it's really hard. And it's not like they're throwing out remote jobs for every single person. So,
well, 80% unemployment in the disability community, right?
Exactly.
It is definitely a struggle. Now, most of us will never have a stroke.
Yeah.
Thankfully.
Yeah.
Knock on wood, most of us will never have a stroke in our lifetime.
Mm-hmm.
You had a stroke at 21.
Yeah.
Tell me what that first stroke felt like and what it looked like. Because we all have these images in our mind of what strokes present as, but that's not necessarily always the case.
I know, and I had no idea. I was like, what is happening to me? The first thing that happened with that first stroke, because they both presented differently, the first stroke and the second stroke. The first one, I had complete numbness in my tongue. Like my tongue went completely numb. And I was like, okay, that's not good. And the whole left side of my body went numb. It almost felt like when your foot falls asleep. That's what it felt like. And it just didn't come back. And so then they had me do a test where you hold both of your arms out and you close your eyes. And they're basically seeing if one of them drops. And my left arm did. It dropped completely because I had that left-sided weakness. So any one-sided weakness, generally not a good sign. It's showing that there's a deficit in one side of your brain, which for me at that time was my right, because the right side of your brain controls the left and vice versa. I want to say I had like slight slurring of speech, but that was the main one. My blood pressure dropped completely. And then when I was in the ER, I dragged my mom to the ER because I was nervous. I fainted. I completely lost consciousness. And, they were pretty freaked out at that point. They were like, what is going on with this girl? But they ended up attributing it to what they call a syncopal episode induced by anxiety. So,
listen, I have anxiety. I have had serious anxiety and panic attacks.
Mm-hmm.
I have had, like, my fingertips get a little bit numb and tingly,
Right.
and a racing heart, and
Right.
sweating, and nausea, and even vomiting when I'm super anxious. Never have I had, like, entire left-sided weakness, or my tongue go numb, or slurring of my words. Like,
Right.
that just simply does not sound like anxiety.
Right. So the second time, my whole left side of my face started to droop. Like, couldn't move it. This is what was going on. And I started slurring my words. Again, I was with my partner. So he's looking at me and he's like, why does your face look like that? And I was like, okay, rude. We're breaking up. Not really, but
Genetics. What are you talking
no,
about?
I was like, okay, like, what the hell? Why would you say that to me? He's like, no, really, like, something's wrong with your face. And I'm like, okay, I don't know what you're talking about. And I start slurring my words, and he's like, babe, like, you get in the car. And he was older than me, and he also worked in medical malpractice. So he kind of had a sense that something was not right. I don't think he knew that it was a stroke per se, but he was like, we need to get this situated. And when I got to the hospital, they were going to write it off as Bell's palsy. They were like, no, just a bit of Bell's palsy. You're probably fine. And he was like, no, get this girl in an MRI right now. And honestly, shout out to him because that was the only reason they ran a test. And then they came back in and they were like, we are so sorry. You just had a stroke. Sorry. Yikes.
Not Bell's palsy, after all.
And so I still have like, these aren't really the typical signs of a stroke. Like most people have deficits that last a lot longer. And I totally acknowledge and understand that. I was really young. I was 21 years old. So all of these deficits for me cleared up pretty quickly. I wasn't able to this is so embarrassing. I literally wasn't able to draw a clock. Like they ask you to do things to see if you're like okay mentally. And I couldn't like draw like 11 o'clock on a clock. I don't know what it was. It was like my brain was just blank when it came to that.
Well, I think it was a stroke.
Probably
That's
it
my
was,
thought.
But like I literally
That would be my diagnosis.
Like people think I'm kidding or they think it was a TIA, which is like a smaller brain like moment. But I'm like, no. I have serious brain damage. Like I can draw a clock now, but like
So do you have brain damage from the strokes? Like do you actually
Yeah.
What does that look like? What does having brain damage mean for you?
It's like grayed out on this whenever they do an MRI, there's like that part of my brain is like dead. I forget which part specifically it is, which I should probably know that, but I've had
Okay, I was going to
strokes.
make a dark joke that it sounds like your memory. I have such dark humor. I'm sorry.
No, literally, I think it is. I think it's like whenever I can't do like math or something, I'm like, oh, my strokes.
You're like, sorry, I have brain damage.
Or I'm late. Yeah, I'm like, oh, my strokes. Literally, though, probably.
I think brain damage is the best excuse you could have.
Yeah. But your brain is, what is it? Elastic? So it can like, whoa, that was crazy. But yeah, it can like grow and change and improve. And thankfully, mine's getting better and better every day, you guys. So yeah, I'm like a girl genius right now.
Having youth on your side, I'm sure has been a benefit in this circumstance.
I'm like so smart.
What? So smart you can't even remember what brain damage you have.
I just like repress it. I'm like, oh, it's fine. It's fine. It's fine. And they showed me the picture and I was like, that seems really bad. It's okay.
But brain damage, you're like, brain damage is the least of my concerns right now. Brain damage is the least of my worries.
I'm like, okay, I'm getting left on red right now, so we're going to have to put that on the back burner.
My Tinder matches all suck. I don't.
Literally.
Welcome to dating in LA. What is getting stents in your brain?
Yes. Okay, so a stent is like, it's like a Chinese finger trap. Have you seen those?
Yeah, where you put your fingers in and then they get stuck and
exactly.
You have to
It's like a metal version of that. It's mesh. I have one that's meant for your heart, so it's called a coronary stent. And it basically just holds your arteries open so that they can't close up and be super silly and cause more strokes, more strokeage, more brain damage. So, yeah, I have 2 in my right and 1 in my left. And,
So is that like a full-on brain surgery to get those put in?
Yeah, I think it's called an angioplasty. Correct me if I'm wrong, comments. But yeah, they go through either your wrist or your groin. They always went through my groin for me, which like, you guys are creeps. No, I'm kidding. But like, you guys are obsessed with me. Like, oh my God. Brain surgery and you have to be butt naked. Like, great. Oof. Love it. Anyway, so
at least you didn't have to get your hair shaved.
So true.
Yeah.
I know. Even my craniotomy, they didn't have to shave my hair. So that's pretty
That's
lit.
a win. That's a win.
A win is a win. But yeah, they do like a little tiny incision in your femoral artery, which is the big one. And then they just zhuzh it on up. I'm doing a terrible job of explaining it. They like inch it on up all the way up to your brain, basically.
I did know what that meant, which is the funniest part of this whole thing. I knew exactly what you meant by making that sound effect. You know
Okay,
how like
good.
some words sound like what they are? Like the word squiggly just
Yes.
sounds squiggly. The word zigzag is
Zigzag.
zigzaggy and is inching. That is like a slow little jiggly movement forward.
You're
Yes.
so kind.
I
Thank you.
fully understood. I grasped it. Don't worry.
Thank you, babe.
I'm always trying to put like complicated medical stuff into like normal human speak, and I'm always like, I don't know. Any doctors or nurses listening to me would be like,
The
no.
jargon is really tricky because I feel like you and we've become well versed. I can tell you all about how my arteries have become critically stenosed, but no one really knows what that means unless you're in the medical field. And then it's just like, okay, snooze fest.
Yeah, then it's like, and it's not, nobody's understanding.
Snooze fest USA. Yeah, exactly. So let me like simplify it, but then it just sounds like really dumb. So it's like, how can I middle ground, you guys?
Yes, we do the best we can. As we're just girls. We're just
Exactly.
girls living with weird, random, rare things.
We're so rare. We're not like the other girls.
Hey, my diagnosis was considered 1 in a million. And so I remind my parents all the time they have a 1 in a million daughter. How lucky are they?
Gosh, you are 1 in a million.
So lucky.
So lucky.
So you have your second stroke. You're like, all right, we're done with that. It's behind us. You move to New York. You live your life.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, you get this eye pain. Now, I have always gotten eye pain because, I've got an eye disease. Comes with the territory for a lot of us. In my situation, my whole life, the way I've explained what it feels like is like there's a little man in my head and he's standing behind my eyeballs and he's taking his hands and he's trying to pop them out of my head. Like it's like a pressure, like an intense pressure behind my eyes where it feels like my eyeball is trying to be pushed out of my head. Mine never has. Yours literally has been.
Yes.
So is that like how, when you just say you had eye pain, is that what it felt like for you? Like a pressure?
Extremely accurate. Yeah. It feels like a pressure. It sometimes felt hot. I remember holding like cans of soda, like the metal cans of soda against the eye just to get it to like, stop throbbing. I remember it like just pulsating and throbbing, almost like a migraine centralized in your eye. Sometimes it would radiate all the way down to my teeth. I remember like worrying that I had like cavities or something, but I didn't. It was just the eye pain radiating all the way down my face. And I mean, it would get so extreme. I'd be sitting on the bathroom floor just screaming because it was excruciating. Like it can be so, so bad, especially when the nerve pain comes into play. I would not wish nerve pain on absolutely my worst enemy. It's the worst thing ever. But what I dealt with for the majority of the time as my eye was making a run for it was just that throbbing, that pressure that you described. And it was really bad for me in the morning. I would always want to be like near a shower so I could take a hot shower and just kind of hope that it would help the inflammation go down a little bit. But it was not an enjoyable way of life. And after 2-3 years living like that, I wanted to look for other options, but it was a really difficult emotional decision that I don't think most people understand. They're like, why didn't you just remove it? Why didn't you just remove it? Why didn't you just remove it? It looked bad. It felt bad. Like, why wouldn't you just dig it out?
I have a lot of friends who are amputees. And I feel like losing an eye is essentially like a form of amputation. And I have some friends who had to get amputation because there was no other option. And I have multiple friends who sat with the choice. Like, we can keep your limb, we can salvage it, but XYZ is going to be the result of that choice. Or we can remove it, you can get a prosthetic, and you can go about your life. And both of those scenarios, for every person I know who was in that situation, carried different weight. Like, they each had pros and cons. And I think that, I describe going blind like a death of myself. It was like the death of my eyes. I literally watched them decay.
Mm.
Like, I watched them disappear. And the loss of a piece of yourself is such a profound feeling that only those in these very rare circumstances like us
Mm.
can fully understand. And the idea of choosing to lose a piece of yourself, even if that piece causes you pain, and even if that piece is no longer working the way it's supposed to, it's still a piece of yourself. And I have a friend who has been fully blind. Her eyes haven't worked in years, but she just had to make the decision to get the evisceration surgery.
Oh, wow.
And even for her, she was like, I didn't realize how emotional that would feel
Mm.
to like, yeah, they haven't worked for forever, but like it's still a piece of my body that is no longer with me.
Mm.
And there's just like a different grief that comes with that. And you went through so many years. I watched you, like I said, do all of these videos going through these ups and downs and experimenting and trying this medication and all of those things carrying different hardships with them and different hope and letdown each time. And you can only go on that cycle
Yeah.
for so long before you realize like your life is in a standstill
Mm.
and your life is in like this constant cycle
Wow, yeah.
that
That's
eventually you need
perfect.
to break.
Yeah, that's so beautifully said. All of what you just said is so perfect. Um, it got to a point where I was turning 25 and I had just had another major flare up, and my eye was like just dragging my entire face down. I mean, the whole underside was red. There was no blood flow going in or out. It was totally like bloated and angry. I couldn't even really lift the eyelid. It was so proptotic, like just a mess. Like it felt heavy. My eyebrow was like super lifted because I was trying to like compensate. Even now it's a little lifted just from muscle memory. And I was like, I can't go on like this. I can't continue to live this way. I'm not going to do that for myself. And I became very protective in a way of me as just like as an entity and the eyeball as well. I was like, the eyeball is my bestie. I would love to stay with her, but she's also in an enormous amount of pain. Like, this is not fair to either of us. And it is. It's not just an eyeball, it's a part of me. And in saying goodbye to the eye, I'm saying goodbye to that part of myself. I'm never going to get the eye back. I'm never going to get the vision back. In removing it, I've kind of abandoned any hope that I will recover in the same way. And I've had to really embrace a radical form of acceptance that I'm going to have to move forward with a new normal. And what is that going to look like for me? And how can I make that joyful? You know, because I want my life to be happy. I don't want to be dragged down by this experience. And really, it has been very joyful, even in the darkest moments. Like, my nurses have been so kind. I've made friends on the internet, friends like you. And yeah, choosing to remove her was so difficult and so sad. And I grieve my eye like every single day, Molly. Like, it's like a friend. I miss her all the time. I wear eyeball jewelry because it reminds me of her, and it feels like a death, you know.
It
But
does. I can completely relate to that feeling. And I
mhm,
think what I've had to learn in, what now, almost 20 years since I went blind,
mhm,
is the grief doesn't go away, it just changes.
yeah,
And it hits you in different moments in different ways for different
yeah,
reasons. But it gets less, like it's less frequent that it arises in my life as I get older, but it will always find ways to pop up.
yeah. I'm almost grateful it doesn't go away. I like to feel it. I like to be reminded of what I've been through with her. Like, the eye was so important and so special to me, and, like, I enjoy it sounds strange to say, but I enjoy living with some of the grief because it's a reminder of, like, the love that I have for the eye and for, that loss. It's monumental, as you know, and as you've said yourself, like, it's it's so hard and so weird, like, not many people know what
Yeah.
it's like to lose something like that, but
A literal piece of yourself.
I know.
But I relate to that, to what you're saying around, like, um, kind of, like, holding space for that grief without attaching negativity to the grief.
Yeah.
I sometimes will, like, listen to music that I listened to during that
Yes.
period of my life of vision loss, and I reconnect to the girl who needed that song
Mm,
because she was in so much pain and it's the only way she felt seen,
mhm.
and I hold so much love for her.
Yeah.
Like, I hold so much love for that girl because she is who I am today. Like, she made me the person I am. The grief, the pain, the hardship that I went through made me the strong, resilient, optimistic person I am today. The pain is what made me choose joy.
Oh,
And so
yes.
I hold space for her because she is an important part of my growth and my journey and my experience and who I am today.
Oh, you can make me cry right now. That's so, so lovely. Yeah, it really is. It's like different stages of us, different stages of Chan. Like, I barely recognize some parts of myself. I'm like, who is that girl? And, I've just evolved so many times. I'm sure we both have, like, so many iterations of the people we are today, but they're all so important and they're so lovely. And I have so much love for all versions. It's just so wild to look back and see how much, has happened.
In just 5 years. Like,
I
you went
know.
through so much in 5 years, and I am sure throughout this period of your eye literally being pushed out of your head, because, like I said, that's how mine felt, but yours actually was doing that. There was that much inflammation.
Mhm.
There was this ball of tissue growing,
Mhm.
and no matter what they try, it's not stopping.
Yeah.
You know that you're never going to see again, even if they control that inflammation, even if they're able to get your eye back in the socket, you will never see again. So I'm sure throughout that period, there was many moments of questioning, like, should I just remove the eyeball and move on? But what was that moment like when you finally hit the wall and made the decision that you were done and it was time to take your eyeball out?
Yeah. I went to a cancer clinic in Texas to get a second opinion about eyeball removal because it really wasn't something I took lightly. And at that time, it was a really complicated surgery because they didn't know what was behind the eyeball itself. Obviously, they knew there was that granuloma, but what does that really look like? And if they remove all of that, what's going to stop my face from just caving in? Because now they've removed so much. They've removed the eye and they've removed all that tissue. So how are they going to stop my face from just sinking in? That was the big question. Is it aesthetically going to be any better than what I was dealing with already? Could I keep my eyebrows? Could I keep my eyelashes? Could I keep my eyelids? Or was I going to have to have something like a flap? You know what I mean? Um, and that really scared me. I did not want to have to deal with that. So what I ended up doing was speaking with a really wonderful surgeon in Tucson. And this surgeon really saw me. He really understood my story. He really took a vested interest in what was going to be best, um, and what I wanted. And I don't meet a lot of doctors like that. Most doctors I've met, they're great, but they're just a little more clinical. So I was so lucky to connect with him in this way. And he really dedicated like an enormous amount of time to my story. And he really understood how complex the surgery was going to be. He's an oculoplastics surgeon. So, I went to these really prestigious institutes talking about eye removal and didn't feel quite like comfortable pulling the trigger at that moment. But after establishing that bond with my surgeon in Arizona, a much smaller town, but still a wonderful guy, of course, I was like, I think this is what I want to do. And my family's like, are you sure? Like, this in Tucson, Arizona? Like, you want to get your eye removed? I'm like, yeah, I want to move on with my life. I want to be able to like have a family, have a career without all this pain and without my eye dragging me down. And I really feel like this is the surgeon who understands my story well enough and who cares about me enough to do it the right way. So he was able to pull off an exoneration. What I have now is an exoneration. And everyone who knows what that is going, there's no way she has an exoneration, because that's the removal of everything in your socket. Like, it's intense. Most people who have an eye removed have an evisceration, like you
Yes.
said, or they have an enucleation, which is just the removal of the eyeball. So I don't have anything in there. When people are like, why doesn't the eye move? Why doesn't it blink? Mine doesn't blink or move at all. It's because I don't have anything back there.
And when they took it out, were they able to remove all of that
Yes.
inflammation and like really see what was genuinely happening back there?
Yes. So my surgeon says it was like cutting through wet cement, like just really difficult to remove, really thick, like concrete, you know? It's really tangible. People think of inflammation like just something kind of miscellaneous or abstract. No, it's something you can touch. It's something you can feel. It's something that can push an eyeball out, you know? So yeah, they were able to remove 90% of it, which is amazing. The 10%, whatever, it's going to be here forever. That's just like too ensnared in all my nerves and whatever else. And I'm left with this really beautiful face. No, I'm kidding. But I got to keep my lashes. I got to keep my eyeball. I got to keep my lids. And I just have a regular prosthesis now, which is great.
The night before surgery,
Oh, yeah.
the night before you go in
Oh, my gosh.
to remove, like the last night with your eye.
It was so emotional. I spent it with my sister. I spent it with my family and my sister. I did a lot of journaling. I visited all of my favorite spots. I was showing my eyeball all around, you know. In Tucson, there's this chapel. I'm not particularly religious, but there's this chapel from this gallery, this art gallery called DeGrazia's Gallery in the Sun. And people leave little mementos, kind of like under this ofrenda for their loved ones. And so I left a little like eyeball memento for my eye. And I journaled a lot. We went shopping. We got C's candy. Like, it was a very normal day. And I spent it with my loved ones and took it very easy, but it was so emotional. I just like thanked little Miss Eyeball for everything she had done for me. I apologized for not being able to save her. You know, I sometimes feel a little guilt for that because I feel like, you know, I did the best I could, of course, but in another life, I would have loved to have spent it with her, of course. So that's the majority of what I did that day, and then I went to bed early.
I can say from following your whole journey, you did everything you could.
Thank you.
There was nothing more to be done. I feel like you had to make the choice to be able to move on, like you said, and free yourself to live the life that you wanted. And there's nothing more limiting than living in pain. And on like the absolute smallest scale, I've dealt with chronic headaches since I was 14, since I went blind. And I thought I just had to live with it. Like, I thought that was just my baseline, was just having like a headache all the time.
Yeah.
And I was just like, that's just life.
Yeah.
And a few months ago, I started having all these other symptoms, and the migraines, like the headache just kicked up. And I was like, I had stayed at the same baseline for so long that it was just my normal. I didn't think twice about having a headache. That was just what it was. And then when it kicked up, I was like, oh God. Like, I was 31 at the time. I was like, I'm only 31. Like, if every couple years it increases,
Yeah.
I don't know how I can live like that. And so I like started the journey, and you know, everybody will see soon. I'm starting my journey with an oral facial pain specialist, and I'm going to have to wear an orthotic in my mouth for at least 6 to 8 months, 24/7. And but it was like this moment. I think I had to accept the pain and give up on hope, because I didn't think, every time I tried to find a solution, there was no solution.
It's so hard.
And so I had accepted it, but it took like getting to that next level of being like, oh no, I don't want to live in this much pain every day.
Yeah.
I don't want to live with this many symptoms every day. And to like give yourself that hope again, like, wait, there might be something.
Oh, yeah.
It's like kind of like scary to let yourself have hope that something will work
Yeah.
and hope that like you're right. And you're
Yeah.
not like let down when everybody's told you there's no solution, but one person says there is.
I know.
You're like, is there though?
I know. I feel like I'm jaded at this point because I can't tell you how many people have told me this is the solution. This is it's radiation. No, it's corticosteroids. No, it's spinal tap. No, it's, this supplement. It's sleeping more. It's yoga. It's exercise. It can be holistic too. I've definitely experienced that. And I've tried it all. I haven't just tried Western medicine. I've tried everything. I'm very open-minded when it comes to that. I've tried a combo. I've gone, on either sides of the spectrum trying to figure out what was going to work, what was going to save this little eyeball. And I wanted to know what was causing it. And I've only just now kind of pieced that together, living here in LA with better healthcare and doctors that talk to each other. That's key, right? That's really key. So, I definitely relate to that. Like, oh, is it okay to have some hope? Like, is it gonna work out this time? Like, are they really gonna remove my eye? Am I gonna look like a quote unquote normal person again?
Or like the fear of like removing that eyeball and will there still be pain?
That's what I was really worried about. Or is it gonna go to the other eye, and then it's just gonna be all over again? Or is it gonna grow and then my prosthetic's getting pushed out? Like, oh my gosh, how do we know this is gonna be like for those first like couple of months afterwards, especially, I was like, okay, are we good? Like,
You're kind of like in this like waiting for the other shoe to drop, right? Like
yeah.
that's how I feel like my trauma has manifested in me
Mhm.
is I feel like every time things are going well, it's temporary
Yeah.
and I'm waiting for the rug to be pulled again.
Yeah. How do you deal with that? I'm like, tell me.
No, tell me. I'm still trying
I
to
don't
figure it
know.
out. Like I feel like when I was talking to a therapist about it a few years ago, she's like, that's your body has learned that pattern in your life. And like your nervous system has learned that things are only temporarily good and that
Yeah.
the bad is inevitable. And so you're always like on the edge of the cliff,
Yeah,
like
yeah.
waiting and it makes it hard at times to like fully let yourself enjoy and celebrate
Yeah.
because you're like, I don't want to enjoy and celebrate if I'm going to be in pain again. And
Yeah.
it's all going to get flipped upside down again. So you're always like at bated breath, and I've had to try to learn to like just enjoy the good when it is here.
Yeah.
Like just let yourself have that moment of joy and rest
Yeah. Yeah.
and like know that if and when that other shoe drops, you'll eventually be able to pick it back up again.
It's so funny. I feel like I have gotten okay at, okay, well, the bad's only gonna last a little bit because it is such a little roller coaster. But then it's like, yeah, that good, it only lasts a little bit too. So I've just tried to see it like a roller coaster, like a little wave, and I'm just riding the wave. And I'm like, all right, well, it's never gonna go away forever. Like the bad's not gonna go away forever. The good's not gonna go away forever. So yeah, let's just ride the wave and enjoy all the tiny moments. Some of the happiest moments in my life are like sitting on my couch drinking iced coffee. That's what this journey has really showed me. It's that shift in perspective. It's not all the big concerts and the big, red carpet moments. It's like just being where you are and enjoying the life you have. That's what's going to give you happiness. That's what's going to make you feel whole. So that's how I'm finding ways to enjoy. I'm like, okay, if I can find the light and even the bad, I'm never going to be completely sad or completely down, even though sometimes it's really hard and it is a practice and I'm not always 100% positive.
Well, you You certainly always manage, from what I see online, to like put positive spins on things.
Thank you.
It's very inspiring. Like you always manage to
Thank you.
like put on I don't know if it's like you're just putting on a brave face or if that's really your personality, but
I
you
think
seem
it's
to
real.
always have that, you know?
I mean, I try to keep it real. So I've shown myself like going through the tough moments. I think that's also a part of being positive is you have to have the down moments too. But yeah, like I enjoy myself. If I'm in the hospital, like I'm chatting it up with the nurses, even if I'm in immense pain, which I think is the most difficult. Pain can make you really cruel. It certainly made me really cruel at times. I just wanted to be alone and not talk to anyone. So that was probably the hardest part of staying positive was like dealing with the pain. But yeah, I try to find moments of reprieve and moments of joy because otherwise it would have been just the worst ever. And who wants to deal with that? Not me. So it made it easier, really. It was just a selfish thing. My silliness and my positivity is just selfish. It just makes it easier for me.
You really do have to choose that for yourself, right?
Mhm.
Like I do think it's so easy when you're dealing with disability or chronic illness to see the negatives and the hard parts.
Yeah.
But I don't want to focus on that because when I focus on that, I feel mentally miserable. And
Yeah.
I don't want that for myself.
No, like I like to sit and I like to process what I've been through. Like I said, I like to hold that grief with me very closely, but yeah, it's not all bad the way people think. I have people tell me all the time like, "Oh, I'd rather unalive myself than lose an eye." I'm like,
Yeah,
"Okay,
we've
well,
all heard it. Yep, all of us with disabilities have
thanks."
gotten that one.
Yeah, no, I was like 100% Molly can relate to this. I was
Yep.
like, "Yeah, no, like thanks, bud. Like I'm not gonna
It's crazy to me when people say things like that to disabled people, like, "I'd rather die than live with your disability."
like why would you say that, first of all?"
But it's just like there's so much more to life than seeing.
Yeah,
Like, that's what confuses me as a blind person.
of
There is
course.
so much more to life than what you see, and if
Mhm.
all you value in your life is the things you look at, I think that's a bigger problem
Definitely.
than my blindness is.
It's also just, like, the way that we talk about people with disabilities and, like, they think that having a disability is, like, the worst thing in the world. I'm like,
Worse than death.
literally, I'm like, "Hello, people live with disabilities all the time, and we're super lit." So
It's a fun community. Come join.
it's a really fun
You probably
community.
will at some point.
Everyone will, either that or you're dead,
Yep.
so sorry, babe. It's one or the other. I don't know what you're thinking. You're gonna be, like, 21 years old, peak of your health at when you're 90, like, it's not happening. You're gonna be in the home with the rest of us, so let's all figure a way to get it together.
Do this together.
Yeah.
When you woke up from surgery
Yes.
and the eye had been removed from your face,
Oh my gosh.
what was your first thought or what was your first feeling?
Yeah. I remember sometimes I get, like, angry after anesthesia, which is so unlike me, and I always tell them I'm like, "Sorry if I'm grumpy afterwards," but I remember being pleasantly surprised. I wasn't grumpy, I wasn't angry. I woke up, like, very calmly, and I remember waving sleepy at the nurse, and she waved back. She was like, "Hey, girl." And I was all bandaged up and feeling kinda nauseous, as one does, but I felt just like a relief. It literally felt like a new page had turned. That's how it felt to me. Like, everything was very aligned, if you're into that kind of thing spiritually, like, it happened May 22nd. 222 is, like, my lucky number, so I don't know. Whatever. But everything just seemed to have come together that day for me. It was with my favorite doctor. They played Fleetwood Mac in the operating room. And afterwards, I didn't know what I was going to look like. I was really nervous about that. I actually had my mom take off the bandages the first time because I was so scared of seeing myself without an eye. Imagine seeing yourself without an eye. Like, what is that going to be?
I can't even imagine seeing myself. So I definitely can't imagine seeing myself without an eye.
No, exactly. Like, it would be so weird. So I asked my mom to describe what the eye looked like because I was being a huge baby. But yeah, I felt like it was the right decision, and I just felt very calm afterwards. I was like, "Okay, now I
It's
can start
done.
anew." Yeah.
Was the pain gone? Like, did you wake up and feel like a relief from the chronic pain you were in?
So, in a way, like, the chronic pain I was in was gone, but it was replaced by the pain of the surgery, so it's like, kind of. It took me several days, like, getting off the painkillers, like, having the eye healed before I was like, "Oh my gosh, I can sleep and wake up and my eye's not throbbing." Like, best day ever, you know? I hadn't lived like that in years and years and years. So, well, 2, 3 years, I'm being dramatic, but just, like, that was the biggest gift ever, being able to wake up, go to bed late, wake up, and not have any pain in my eye. Like, I felt like the luckiest girl in the world. Obviously, I didn't have an eyeball, so it came at a price, but yeah, I was so excited about that. It's so strange to talk about. I don't know.
You spent the last 5 years of your life looking different.
Mhm.
From having your eyeball protruding from your head and having
Yeah.
inflammation and redness and lopsided
Yeah.
visual to then losing your eye. How did moving about the world from somebody who fit beauty standards and, looked normal to going out of your house every day, quote, looking different, how did that impact you emotionally and mentally?
Yeah. It took so much energy, that's the biggest thing. I remembered saying that to my mom, and she's like, "Oh, I couldn't even tell because you seem so confident." And I'm like, "Mom, it takes me so much energy just to get out of the house because 'cause I'm so worried about what people are gonna think about me." And it's not that I don't love myself, I think I'm great. I love my eye at every stage, it's not that. But I know how other people are because they come up to me and they're like, "Hey, your eye looks really bad." They would come up to me, like, with all my friends around, they would be like, "Yeah, your eye looks really bad," and they would not let up. I'm like, "Okay, thanks." Another time, like, a group of guys just, like, laughed in my face and were like, "That girl looks effed up." I was like, "Okay." And I looked at them, I was like, "What? Like, come again?" And they just, like, laughed at me. I was like, "Okay. I'm just trying to have ice cream with my friends. Like, thanks so much." So weird, and even if I wear an eye patch at that time, people would be like, "Can I see under your eye patch?" You know? And it's like, why would I show you what's under my eye patch?
People feel like they can ask disabled people the most invasive questions
Yeah.
and like it's totally normal because we're disabled, so they're allowed to ask.
Yeah. Very weird.
What is the most unhinged comment
Yeah.
anybody has made about the way you look?
There's so many. I've been called Glenn from The Walking Dead, like when they beat him with a baseball bat. Spoiler, but like, what? Why would you say that? They've told me I look like a goldfish, like a lizard. They've told me I should dig it out with an eye or dig out my eye with a spoon. Now that I've had it removed, I've had people tell me that they want to like do stuff with the socket. Yeah, you guys are nasty.
Men really always find a way
Yeah, I know. And it's
to
like,
come up with completely new ways to violate women. That's
I
just
know.
so
And
I
it's like
I'm lost for words, Jan.
it's so wild. And you're like, okay, well, it's just online, like whatever. No, like people are in person saying this kind of stuff to me too. And it's like, okay. And I like to think I'm like a relatively like cute looking person, like, besides the protruding eye, but I liked the protruding eye too, whatever. So it's just wild to me that you feel comfortable treating me like I'm just some like
Subhuman.
object.
Yeah.
Yeah, like so strange. Oh, the guy from the Goonies, Sloth, and called that one too. Just so like, get creative, please.
I knew there had to be some unhinged remarks because just like it comes with the territory
Yeah.
of being disabled. But I feel like in particular, being a woman with a visible facial difference
Yeah.
must carry its own kind of weight.
Definitely. And it really was a weird feeling too, because it's like I went from having the super visible difference to all of a sudden I didn't have that anymore. And that was a weird feeling too, because it's like I feel like people changed the way they looked at me, kind of. Like, I don't know. You know what I mean? It
No,
was
I do. My whole childhood I got stared at, right? Like
Yeah,
I was a little girl with a cane, and it
right.
just made people stop and look because society often associates blindness with elderly people.
Mhm.
Like a lot of people don't think of blindness as young people. And so
Right.
being a young kid who also didn't quote look blind, I didn't wear dark sunglasses. My eyes, I have full control over moving my eyes. They're like a
Right.
blue, green, gray color. There was nothing that
Yeah.
gave away my blindness. I've always been really into fashion. So
Yeah.
I feel like it just like caught people off guard and they would stare.
Mm.
And I knew that they would stare, especially when I was younger, because I could see enough to see people looking at me and facing my direction when I would pass. And as I got older, I felt this need to like, well, if they're going to stare, I'll give them something good to stare at. I'll dye my hair fun, crazy colors.
Yeah.
I'll wear like really out there outfits. Like
Yeah.
I'll have a really distinct style
Mhm.
because if they're going to look, might as well be looking at something good. And I feel like that's kind of what you've done with your eyeballs. So
Yes.
you have gone all the way in on fun prosthetic eyes, and I love it so
Oh,
much. So
yay.
what made you decide post-surgery when you were starting to get your first prosthetic? Like what was that journey like getting your first prosthetic, and what made you go, "Let's make it fun. Who wants one that looks like an eyeball when I can have a sunset or snakeskin?"
I love that. I mean, leading up to the eye removal, I had connected with several people online who had fun prosthetics. So, Hamus Teacher, Rachel McKensley, Belle Baxt, they all have beautiful prosthetic eyes made by Christina Aguilera, and she does incredible work. They look like princesses. Like, they look like the mermaids and the fairies that I loved growing up. Like, that's always been my vibe. So I don't even really think I considered having a realistic eye, especially when I found out that mine couldn't move and couldn't blink. I totally understand why people would want one, and I'm not trying to like bash on them, but I felt for myself that I was always going to be kind of trying to look quote unquote normal and just falling a little bit short. Like that's how I would have felt personally. Again, to each their own. Um, but this is what makes me feel more confident because people know right away it's fake, or if they don't know it's fake, girl, I mean, I don't know.
Don't know what to tell you.
There's a star in the middle of my eyeball. Like, it is fake. And it's like on my terms. I'm not trying to be anything other than what I am. Again, if you have a realistic eye, I'm not saying that you're trying to be something you're not, but this is just what works for me, and it's really empowering. Sometimes I do still prefer the eye patch because I say some people don't deserve eyeball privileges, but yeah, it's been a really interesting way to like reclaim what's happened to me. It's interesting to see how people react, though. Like, no one really comes up and, like, talks about it. I know they notice it. I see them look at it, but I feel like people are scared of it sometimes. And I don't hate that either. If it scares you a little bit, okay, like, what I went through was scary. So, I
You
love
can
my
feel
eyes.
discomfort for a slight second because I
Totally.
felt discomfort for years.
Totally. Like, even the guy I'm seeing right now, he's like, it is jarring, like, when you first see it. I'm not gonna lie to you, but, like, you get accustomed to it right away. So,
This is the stupidest comparison,
no.
but I do feel like when I was younger, bear with me, Chan. We're circling to the point. When I was younger, I like desperately wanted a boob job
Okay,
because
yeah.
it was like the early 2000s,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
like that was the aesthetic,
yeah,
right? And I was always just a small chested gal, and I was always like, when I'm 18, when I'm older, I'm gonna get a boob job,
yeah.
and I would wear push up bras and blah blah blah, and then I realized like wearing push-up bras made me hate myself because
Oh.
I was pretending to be something I wasn't. Like I was
Yeah.
putting this thing on that made me feel like that's what I should have.
Mhm.
And so I stopped wearing push-up bras
Mhm.
and just wearing like a thin, like comfortable bralette type of bra.
That's the
And
perfect comparison.
all of a sudden, I was like, oh, I love my body.
I love
Because I felt
that.
like I wasn't pretending to have something I didn't. I wasn't putting something on that I felt fit a standard. It was just like, no, like this is my body and this is what I'm comfortable in this body.
Yeah.
So like I'm not going to pretend I have something I don't.
Yeah.
And in pretending to have something I don't, it makes me want to have that thing for real, right? And
I
then when I
know.
just like stopped playing into that beauty standard and accepted my body as it was, I was like, oh, I actually like I do love this body.
Mm.
And now I like couldn't even think about getting a boob job. So like I do understand this idea of being like I don't want to fake I have something
Mhm.
that I don't because it'll make me want to have it.
Yeah.
And I'm never going to.
And
So like let me just love this.
That's such a good point too about like kind of the anger at the standards that's already there, because I do feel a lot of anger that people like expect me to still like perform a certain look for them. Like I don't care what you want me to look like, Could not care less actually. Like, oh, you think it'd look better with a realistic eye? Okay, great. I'm going to do a full golden sparkly iris. Like, I don't care what you want from me. Like, that makes me so upset that people think that they have any say in what I'm going to look like. The vast majority of people have been really wonderful and have loved the eyes, and I love that. That makes me really happy. But like, I'm going to do what I want to do. If you think the eye looks like it's rotting because I chose like a fun little sunset design, like, don't care. Didn't ask.
Do you own any normal looking eyes?
I
Or do you
do.
only have fun ones? And so do you wear it? Do you ever wear that normal eye?
It's so funny. It's my most expensive eye. It was $4,000. Yeah. And it was a pretty penny. And it was from
That's a Louis Vuitton
I
in your
know.
face.
I know. It was from an ocularist in Arizona who is wonderful and so talented. I can show you the realistic eye. But I felt like I should have it just in case. But yeah, unfortunately, I don't ever really wear it. I might go back and ask them to add some glitter to it. They're gonna kill me. They're gonna be like, Chandler, we work so hard to make it look beautiful. Like, it looks just like my other eye. But again, it's like when I see myself in the mirror, I'm like, oh, like they're just slightly different.
It makes you miss that version of yourself that did have those
Yeah.
two eyes.
The first time I saw it in my head, I cried because, I miss my eye, and seeing myself look the way I did before all this happened, like, was emotional. I was, like, sobbing. The ocularist is like, "Should I give you a moment?" I'm like, "No, no, no, it's fine. It's just a lot to process." But yeah, I might go back and ask them to add some gold glitter.
I love that. I've heard you talk a lot online about your different eyes and like unbox the new eyes as they come in.
Yeah.
But obviously, I can't see any of them. So
Oh,
I would
yeah.
love to feel some of them.
Yes.
Can I feel your eyeball, Chan?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Here.
I'm so excited. I have no concept. Like, do your eyes, I know that they're not designed to look realistic, but do they still have like a pupil and an iris, or are they like a full pattern across the whole thing? Like, give me the lowdown.
That's a great question. So the one that I'm going to hand you, they're all going to feel the same. Here, I'm handing
I've
you
never
one right
touched a fake
now.
eye.
Okay, ready?
There's a first for everything. Whoa.
So you can't feel, like, it's smooth, right? And then you can feel the ridges because
Yeah,
it's
there's, like-
designed for my socket.
Wow.
Isn't that cool? So that one you have is white on the outside, kind of like a normal eye. And then it's just a big golden sparkly circle.
Okay, so where the iris with the black center of the pupil
There's
would be, there's just gold.
Just gold. So when I put it in, there's a little white on the outside and then just a big gold sparkly circle.
Fun. Okay.
So it looks pretty crazy. Here, I'll put my hand out. Here I go.
There you
Thank
go.
you. The one I have in right now is a really light blue, and it does have a pupil, but the pupil is a silver sparkly star.
Shut up. That is so stinking cute. Like, why am I jealous? Why am I? Well, my eyes don't work either. I want a cool prosthetic.
And you know what? Like, your friend who had the evisceration, did she lose both her eyes?
Yes.
So, yeah, they do make like, I've seen people with both fun eyes, and it does
Iconic.
make me a little I mean, obviously, I'm very lucky to have my other eye, but the one I'm handing you now, you might be able to feel more of. It's a conformer, so it's small. It's very small. And you'll notice it doesn't have any ridges on the back.
Yeah.
So it's just kind of a shell, but it's pink. It's a very light pink. We call it the divine feminine eyeball.
Love.
Because when they gave it to me, this is the first one I ever got. I got it at the one-eyed meetup where I met everyone for the first time.
The one-eyed meetup.
Yeah, the one-eyed meetup. The divine feminine was playing in the background. So it's very light pink, kind of metallic.
I was going to say, I can see the light bounce off of it. Like, it's like pearlescent.
Yes, and it has little gold stars. It's gorgeous. I want it made into a prosthesis.
Oh my God. When do you decide to wear a conformer versus a prosthetic?
That's a great question. Thank you, my love. Prosthetics can be a little uncomfortable for me because I can't blink. So my socket gets dry. I have eye drops in my pocket right now, just in case my eye were to get too dry. And I can like feel the dust and the gunk on it. And it's just like, you'll see me like picking at it sometimes, which is like a bad habit.
Right, because if you can't blink, and
Yeah.
you're going outside in like the nasty LA,
Exactly.
like the dust gets on the
Exactly.
prosthetic.
So conformers, because they're smaller, my lid can kind of close over them and blink more. So sometimes I'll wear them just if I have a long day. But the only thing is they don't prop my lid open as much. So it looks like
A little sleepy.
a little sleepy.
Just a little sleepy on the one
Exactly.
side.
Exactly. So it's tough to decide which is better. But normally I'm rocking like a mid-sized prosthesis. They're all a little bit different shapes. Some of them are comfier than others. But I love the gold one I just gave you, and I love the blue one I'm wearing right now. Those are probably...
Are they your two favorites of the moment?
Those are my two favorites, yeah. And I have a huge stack of
Can I
others.
feel some more?
Yes. Oh my gosh. Let me find one that'll be... Oh, okay. I've got one for you. That'll be fun. Sorry, I'm holding them up.
Do you have like a little jar of eyes?
Yes, it's a jar of eyeballs. This one has a mirror in the middle of it. I got it because I was the Tin Man for Halloween. So it's got like gray glitter all around it. And then the middle is a mirror. So you could see yourself in the center.
Stop it. The Halloween costumes with your fun fake eyes are endless. The things that you could do.
I'll show you another one, which is the button eye.
You have a button eye?
I have two.
So to get a normal prosthetic eye that looks like an eye costs you $4,000.
Yeah.
How much does getting wacky, fun Tin Man eyes and button eyes cost?
So Christina Aguilera, who has done all of these beautiful ones, besides the gold one, which was done by the folks in Arizona, and I believe they are Arizona Ocular Prosthetics, and Christina Aguilera is Center for Ocular Prosthetics in Portland, Oregon. She charges $500 per eyeball. However, she is a friend. So, sometimes there's a friends and family discount. But yes, $500 per eyeball if you already have a realistic one. So they're expensive, but it's better than $4,000 to be sure.
You've always heard them called glass eyes.
Yeah.
But this is not glass.
No, it's acrylic. Yeah, it's acrylic.
I'm hitting your eyeball with my... Can you guys hear the eyeball in my hand?
Do you want to trade for the buttons?
Sure. Give me another eye. Pass them over.
2 buttons.
Okay, here's your little mirrored eye back.
Thank you.
So what do you mean button eyes? Like I'm struggling to conceptualize.
Okay, so there's white on the outside, and then it's a painting of a button. One of them is red and yellow, and the other is black with just the 4 little dots. So it looks like
my
the whole thing, like the whole
eye looks like
iris
a button.
is a button, yeah. And it looks kind of close to my real eye, so sometimes people don't realize it's a button until they come up close.
What color is your real eye?
It's brown, but I've learned through this process that there is some green in it.
The more you know.
I was like, oh, how delightful. I have a disco eye. I have an eye with a diamond in it. And I'm going to show you next, I think, my realistic eye. So you can see. Well, sorry. I can describe. I'm so sorry.
I like the sparkly ones because I can kind of like just see them, the reflections of them.
Oh, good. Okay, I'll give you a really sparkly one. This is so fun.
Little eyeball show and tell.
Okay, I'll show you the disco ball one next.
Okay, so this one looks realistic.
Yeah, that's the realistic one. You probably can't tell much about that.
This is so fascinating. And you just pop an eye in, pop it out.
Yeah, I could show you if you're not grossed out by that.
Well, you can't show me, but you could show the people at home.
Yeah. You could probably hear some of it.
Oh, wow. There's a sound. There's sound effects.
This one's disco. I think you might be able to see some light from it.
Okay. And
Sorry,
here's Miss 4000 here.
Thank you. My Louis Vuitton.
Honestly, that would be
see?
little Louis Vuitton eye.
Yeah,
Little,
that'd be so
monogram
fun.
pattern.
I love
Slay.
that. What a brand collab that would be. Can you see some?
Oh, I love this one. Might be my fave, along with the
Yay!
Divine Feminine.
Oh, yay.
Oh yeah, this one's good. This one's almost like oil slick.
Yeah. It is.
Duochrome,
Yes.
multi-dimensional.
And the whole thing is just
Yep.
disco.
Obsessed. This would be my eye.
Oh, you would rock that.
Fun.
Disco.
So good.
I love that. You're so gentle with them.
Of course.
I love that.
These are precious.
Precious.
You pop these things in your face. This is part of your face.
Can you believe?
Well, I always say to people when they're getting glasses for the first time, getting a pair of glasses is like getting a nose job. It is a permanent fixture of your face all day, every day when you put those on.
Yeah.
So you need to take that seriously because it is now the first thing people see when they look at you. And these are a part of your face.
Yeah, exactly. It was a big decision. Sometimes it's like, which eye am I going to wear today? What am I going to ask Christina
Does
for
this
next?
color bring out my other eye color?
Yeah. And also it's like, if it doesn't move, is it going to make me look cross-eyed? That's always my worry. I'm like, what can I do that's going to look cool, but also I'm not going to be self-conscious about it? I think we've struck a good balance with these designs.
You have so many fun eyes. I love it so much. And I want to tell you something. So I can't say a ton because I've got NDAs and whatnot, but I do corporate consulting.
Okay.
And I had a company reach out who was creating a character who they wanted to be partially blind. And they brought the original rendering of the character to me, and they gave her the classic milky, foggy gray eyes that every single character forever and ever has been given when trying to represent blindness in the media.
Mm-hmm.
And that stereotype, that trope has deeply harmed me and my community because people look at somebody like me who has a normal colored eye and they say that I'm faking it or assume that I can see more than I can. And will literally ask me well, if you're blind, why aren't your eyes milky gray? Well, because there's only basically one condition that causes that, and there's many conditions that cause blindness.
Yeah.
And so I said to them, this is, frankly, people won't be happy with this. If the blind community is so sick and fed up of people portraying blindness in this way because of the harm it's done to the rest of us. And so we need to find a way to convey blindness that isn't milky, foggy gray eyes. And they said, well, we want the eye to look visually different. And I said, may I present to you Chan?
No way!
And her fun prosthetic eyes. So I sent your page and some other girls' pages who have fun prosthetics. And I said, can we give this character a funky prosthetic that will convey a visible difference to the way the character appears without playing into a trope and makes it fun and sexy and cool to be visually impaired.
Oh my God.
And so that character now has a fun prosthetic eye.
No way!
And you were my biggest first inspiration to presenting that concept to the client.
Oh my gosh. Wait, I'm so honored, and also how amazing that that's happening and we're going to have that representation. Like, this is, if I didn't see people with fun prosthetics myself, like I probably would have gotten a realistic eye, and I probably would have felt really insecure at this stage in my journey. So that's so fabulous. Also, I think it'll be cool for more people to see that, because people come up to me and they don't know what's going on. A lot
Yes.
of people haven't seen a fun eye. So how exciting. I'm so happy you shared that.
Yes, and it is a character in children's media, and it will also be a doll.
Oh my
And so
gosh.
I'm a big believer that we need to get to children when they're young to normalize these things and to
Yeah.
educate, because then we raise generations that aren't bigoted, that aren't ableist, that
Yeah.
don't hold these misconceptions and stereotypes. And so I will definitely share some more info
Yeah,
off
yeah.
here, but I wanted to let you know that like what you're doing with this is helping create
Oh
change.
my gosh. Thank you so much for sharing that. That means so much to me. What a great recommendation too from you. I'm happy you did that.
Thank
Thank
you.
you so much.
I know that both of us share our lives online,
Mhm.
and we don't always get to hear the impact that our work has.
Mhm.
And also, a part of the territory of being a public figure is getting the negativity or the backlash. And sometimes those voices are louder than the ones telling you you've changed their lives. And so I just wanted you to know, like, there's just the way that when I was having those conversations in those boardrooms about creating this character with this fun eye, you had no idea that you were the catalyst for that. So I want you to know that just like you didn't know that that was happening, there's so many people whose lives that you have changed, and you have been their first touch point of a fun eye, and they have gotten a fun eye because of you, the
Oh,
same way that other people did that for you. And there's so many people whose lives are changing, and you'll never know it. So I wanted you to know at least that story.
so wild. That makes me so happy. It is. I know it's scary to share so much of your medical journey online. People have strong opinions, and for the most part, this community has been so lovely, and they've actually helped me navigate this life. I did not expect to develop a chronic illness so early in life. I did not expect to develop a disability so early in life. So I'm so grateful for them, and I hope I've been able to give them even a little bit of what they've given me, because it's really been a tremendous help. Um, yeah, in my life in such a tangible way.
The reality is, in the disability community, we always talk about the fact that this is a community that anybody can join at any time.
Mhm.
And the majority of disabilities are acquired through age, accident, or illness.
Yeah, you
And
taught me that.
you're a living example of
Mhm.
that. At 21 with no prior history, COVID happens and your life completely spiraled from there.
Mhm.
I have seen you be used online as a prop
Mm.
for certain agenda,
Yeah.
for certain narratives
Yeah.
around the COVID vaccine,
Yeah.
and people saying that you had strokes and lost your eye because of the COVID vaccine,
Right.
which is why earlier in our conversation I made sure to make it clear that this did happen prior to the vaccine being in existence, because I can't imagine how painful it is to see your real life story and trauma being stolen
Mhm.
and misused for other people's narratives.
Mhm.
What has that been like?
It's such a hard, unexpected part of this journey. I never expected COVID to be so political. At the time, it was like everyone agreed that it was so dangerous and it was bad. It was my understanding in my little bubble that we were all staying home and we were all masking and we were all taking appropriate precautions. But that's not the way that, people actually felt about it, as we've come to find out. And there's so much misinformation that's been spread about COVID and post-viral illness altogether. Post-viral illness is not novel. Like me having a stroke after contracting a virus, that's actually not novel at all. So for people to be like, that's so unbelievable, that's so weird, as if people weren't dying from COVID before the vaccines were even released, is so wild to me. I don't know what cognitive dissonance has to be happening for people to be thinking that. And I'm not denying that vaccine injuries exist. Vaccine injuries are real. They do affect people, but it's on a much smaller scale than the people who have had their lives devastated by COVID and by viral illnesses at large. So it's really upsetting for me when I've been so transparent about my timeline, you know, which starts before vaccines were even a thing, for people to bring that into the equation. You know, I've had my face be used by anti-vaxxers because my face looked extreme. It looked dramatic. It looked scary. And they used it to warn people against getting the COVID vaccine, when in reality, my personal belief is that if I had the COVID vaccine, my life would not have been devastated in such a huge way. Like, I can't prove it, obviously. I can't go back in time. I can't ask the vaccines to be developed any faster than they already were, which was very fast, and shout out to all those amazing scientists. Um, but yeah, it's really devastating to me that I wasn't able to protect myself and my immune system. And I'm very lucky to be alive. I'm very lucky to be here speaking with you today, because if my ex-boyfriend hadn't been there to advocate for me, I would have gone on to continue having strokes.
And potentially died or
Yeah,
developed an even more significant
that's right.
disability.
That's right. And so it's confusing to me that people can't see. They think there's like some bigger conspiracy going on. And I'm like, it's actually very transparent to me that the pandemic was mishandled, you know? People weren't taken care of. And yeah, like no government official is going to want to own up to that. So of course there's going to be blame placed elsewhere. That's my personal belief. But you know, everyone has very strong feelings now, and I can't talk about what happened to me without it being made political, or without me being called a sheep, or, you know, it's so upsetting. Like, I've been in the ER seeing people die. So unless you're willing to bet your life, your eyeball on it, don't talk to me. Don't talk to me about it. Get clear on my timeline before you come to me. I've been very clear that I had the stroke before the vax, so.
Have the doctors been able to definitively say that the things that happened to you, your multiple strokes,
Mhm.
losing your eye, were specifically due to you contracting COVID?
So the current theory right now, it's difficult because I was in conversations with people in Arizona in 2021. You know, long COVID wasn't really a term that was being thrown around. You know what I mean? Especially by the doctor I was seeing at that time. Like, they were always like, yeah, you got COVID and now you're having a stroke. Like, okay, but what are we going to call that? Like, are we going to call it long COVID? Like, that just wasn't really a part of the differential. That wasn't really a part of the vocabulary. Even now, it's still kind of dicey. Like, you have to go to a long COVID expert, you know, or a long COVID institute, which are currently being, you know, having funding removed. So the current theory from my infectious disease doctor here in LA is that I had a case of valley fever that was dormant up until I developed or contracted COVID. And that is what activated the valley fever. And the valley fever grew in my body and developed the granuloma behind my eye. I'm not sure what caused the stroke. The stroke is more closely tied to COVID. Um, According to all the medical professionals I've talked to. But no, I've never received like a definitive diagnosis on anything. So I try to be careful about how I talk about COVID in that regard, because I don't want to be used as a gotcha. Like, oh, she's never been diagnosed with long COVID, but she's, you know, saying that it caused everything. You know, like, I've just been clear about my timeline and my personal beliefs. And, you know, I do have a theory now with my doctor to this day who believes that COVID definitely played a role. But yeah, it's frustrating. I wish that we had that vocabulary earlier on so that I could definitively say
Mhm.
COVID is a part of my journey. But I can't, and I don't want my story to, like, impact anyone in the long COVID community because they already deal with, like, so much BS.
Yeah, a lot of stigma.
Yeah, exactly. But it'll always be a huge part of the differential for me, and it'll always be a huge part of this story. So, yeah, I stay true to that, and so do my doctors.
Since removing your eyeball,
Mhm.
how has your health been?
It's been okay. It's tough to say. I mean, listen, after I removed my eyeball, I was good for a long time, and then because I was still on immunosuppressants, I got sick a lot, like and I mask, at the gym, I mask, most places I go out in public, but I still ended up contracting parvovirus, which is so random. It's like what your dog
I was gonna
gets.
say what puppies get.
I know, but I ended up getting it myself, and it made me severely anemic, so I was struggling with that. I was learning about having valley fever, and I was, like, testing inconsistent for TB, so it was, like, a very turbulent time for my medical history. But, once they confirmed that I had valley fever, they took me off all of the immunosuppressants, and they got me on an antifungal instead, and since then, I've felt a lot better, and I've been stable for, like, several months. So fingers crossed that I'm, like, in the clear now, but it's interesting because, like, the chronic illness is really what's more debilitating for me, to be completely honest. Like, that's what I think of as my disability, not so much the eye, which of course is a huge thing in and of itself, but yeah, the illness is what really, like, prevents me from being able to work and doing my own laundry and being able to cook for myself and stay active. So that's the most disabling part of my life. The eye was mostly the pain associated with it, and now that's kind of resolved. So, yeah, now I feel great.
Well, I'm glad to hear that
Yeah.
because I know chronic illness is an up and down journey.
Yeah, it definitely is, and I'm hoping that now that I'm not on those immunosuppressants, I'll be
We're on the
better.
up. We're on the
Yeah.
up. I don't want to assume
Yeah,
that you have medical trauma,
I
but
definitely
I
do.
feel like I can assume you have I feel
Yeah.
like a lot of us who go through a lot medically, especially like for me in my very formative childhood years,
Mhm.
you go one of two ways. You become completely immune and nothing medical scares you, or everything medical scares you. And unfortunately for me, I became like everything medical scares me. And I
Mhm.
figured out as an adult, like how to cope with that and how to navigate that in the best ways that I can.
Mhm.
Um, for me, it really looks like advocating when I'm in front of a new doctor, particularly that like, I can't see you.
Mm.
I can't see what you're holding. I can't see when you're going to touch me or where. I can't see when you're going to do something. So making sure that they are constantly describing what
Yeah,
they're doing, or if possible, letting me touch a device or tool that they can then re-sterilize before using it so that I can conceptualize what's going to happen.
I love that.
Um, it looks like making sure that they give me as much autonomy as possible. So that can mean allowing me to do the 3, 2, 1 countdown instead
Mm.
of them, or allowing me to put my hand over their hand so I can feel where they're going and when. So I've figured out ways to navigate it that make it a bit easier for me. I I also am very upfront with doctors right away. Like, look, I do have medical trauma. I might get anxious or freak out uncontrollably. Like, I might have a panic attack or get anxious or cry when I don't even really mean to or like
Mhm.
don't feel like that.
Mhm.
So it's just like making sure I'm advocating and expressing myself and what I need to make that experience easier. And in doing that, it's really helped me to heal. I found like the more positive experiences I have consistently, the more it deletes the negative experiences I had historically.
I love that.
And it allows me to slowly feel more secure and more comfortable and less panicky
Yeah.
in those situations. And I'm curious what medical trauma looks like for you and how you navigate that.
Medical trauma is so bizarre because I remember going into the hospital where I had my first, the second stroke, the first one that was diagnosed, and I just started crying and like having a panic attack. And I'm like, what is going on actually? Am I okay? No, I'm not. And that was the first time I'd ever experienced something like that. And it really confused me. And obviously, I couldn't stay out of the hospital. So I'm like, okay, how am I going to deal with this? And I'm constantly kind of accumulating these new experiences. And I don't want all of them to be bad. So what am I going to do? You're talking about, asking the doctor to let you do the 3, 2, 1 countdown, letting you have some more autonomy, like over whatever procedures or appointments you're having. For me, I think I cope a lot with humor, unfortunately. Everyone probably hates it.
Oh, no, I am that way. I am a cope with humor and specifically, like,
Yes.
dark humor kind of
Yeah,
gal.
I love that. I try to really connect with my doctors on that level, and I actually think that's kind of smart, like, getting your doctors to care about you as a person or see you as a person is, like, an extremely underrated piece of medical advice. That's what happened with me and my oculoplastic surgeon. Also, he's just an amazing person, but, like, really connecting on a human level and getting them to see you as something beyond a patient is, like, really special, and I think that has helped me in my medical journey because people resonated with me for whatever reason, like the nurses, the doctors, the residents, like, whatever it was, like, we were able to just chat it up. So that's kind of one way that I cope, but I still have moments, like I had a bone marrow biopsy, and something about that experience, it wasn't even particularly painful, I was sedated still, but it was just, like, kind of humiliating. I don't know why, like, they drill in your bone, you're, like, kind of exposed in a large group of people in the OR, and, I just, like, started crying, and I felt so small, and I felt so, like, embarrassed and, like, stressed out that I was getting less brave, I guess, there's always this pressure to put on a brave face and do the hard things, and I remember that being, like, really stressful. This was only a few months ago, um, and I wasn't able to just cope with humor. And I wasn't able to I had brought, like, earplugs so I wouldn't have to hear them drill through my bone, and they wouldn't let me wear them in the OR. So sometimes I don't have the amount of control I'd like, and that's what really triggers me. Any control I'm able to have helps a lot. Tell me when you're gonna put a sedative in,
Yes.
Like, let me know what's happening. It's my body. Don't just put me under without me knowing? It's crazy how often that happens, actually. I'm like, "Did you just put something in me?"
I think when we lack so much control over
Yeah.
our own bodies, which is something we feel like we should have control over.
Yeah.
And just living life as a blind person, like there's so many things that I lack the ability to control. For
That
you
must be
having a
so
chronic illness,
scary.
there's so much you lack control over. And so any bit of control that we can have is
Mhm.
that much more valuable. So I completely
Yeah.
can empathize with that feeling of just like wanting as much control over any
Yeah.
situation. And then the moment you feel like that's been taken, it triggers you in ways that you didn't even
Yeah.
foresee coming up.
Yeah, and I hate that it still affects me, but it does.
And that's okay, and it maybe always will. But
Mhm. I just
life
wanna be like I wanna be strong and push through.
you are. You can
Thank
be
you.
strong and push through and still have weak moments. And I
Yeah.
think being willing to be weak and being willing to be vulnerable is a sign of strength.
Oh, yeah, that's really well put. I like what you said about just having them explain and slow down a little bit. I think for a lot of people in the medical field, it's like, this is an average Wednesday?
And they forget that for you as the patient, it's not.
Yeah,
It's a big moment.
yeah, exactly. So,
You talked about all the ways in which your chronic illness deeply affects your everyday life, from work to being able to care for yourself.
mhm.
How does it impact your dating life?
Yeah, I mean, it's scary to like get back out there with one eyeball, especially in LA. Like, I was really nervous about it at first. There's a lot of pressure to look a certain way, you know? I work in the magazine industry, I see it all. I'm always, like, interviewing different influencers and celebrities, and everyone looks so perfect, even beyond the disability of it all, like, everyone just looks very beautiful, so it's tough. It's definitely tough to get back into the dating world. Obviously, I dated someone with one eye, so that was kind of interesting because, you know, it was nice. That was my first introduction to dating with one eye, and we shared that in common, so I felt like I didn't have to be insecure. I didn't feel so different in that regard. I didn't feel so othered. And that kinda made me feel more comfortable going into the dating world, even though him and I didn't work out. So now I'm dating someone else, to be completely honest, and it's great. Like, he sees me for me, and I wore my fun prosthesis on the first date, and whenever I ask him about it, he's like, "Yeah, I just loved your confidence." And it helped him feel more comfortable opening up to me, I think, too. So, you know, don't be afraid to put yourself out there. One eye has never stopped me from pulling a guy.
Love that for you.
Yeah.
How does the other aspects of your chronic illness identity impact the dating? Like
Chronic
having
illness.
certain like needs, maybe like that you need caretaking at certain periods, or you need him to step up doing certain things that maybe
Yeah.
somebody without a chronic illness might not need that.
Chronic illness is more difficult in terms of dating. I think a lot of people think they're prepared to care in that way. They think it's like a fun little, "Oh, I'll take care of you," but, like, it's not. It's Chronic illness can be really ugly and, like, not cute. Like, I'm in bed. I can't help you. It's not glamorous at all. Like, sometimes I can't work. I can't do my own laundry. I can't do my dishes. You know what I mean? Like, I can't brush my teeth, I can't shower, and people hear that and they're like, "Ah, like, I don't wanna take care of you like that." I'm like, "Well, that's what it looks like, that's my life." When I have parvovirus and my hemoglobin is at a 5 and I'm getting blood transfusions every other week, like, that's what it looks like for me. And I'm sorry if it's not sexy to you, but, like, that's my vibe. That's what a girl's gotta do. So I stayed single for a good amount of time when I was really in the thick of chronic illness, and also, like, after I broke up with my ex with one eye, I was single for, like, a good year because I was like, "Let me just take care of this. Let me be on my own." And I think it has been hard for some of my exes, like, you know, I've seen the way that they are prepared to show up, and I know that there are people who will, you know, take care of me. That's never a doubt in my mind. Like, I know that there are people who will love me and who will care for me, like, the way I deserve. But, yeah, it's easy to feel like a burden sometimes.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so I just try to remind myself that people are willing to show up for me, and I think of people like my mom, you know, when I'm sick, she's showing up all the time unconditionally, like, with that love, giving me, toast and, all my favorite meals and letting me be and letting me rest and, like, really caring for me. Obviously, that's a different kind of love, but it exists, you know? Just someone who's going to be there for you always. And I would do it for her, and I would do it for a partner as well. So yeah, it definitely makes dating harder, but I know what to look for. So, yeah, it is something I'm always like, "Do you know what you're getting into?" But I try not to feel bad about it. It is a practice, though.
Yeah, that like feeling like a burden is such a
Right?
heavy, complicated thing to carry, and I think
Yeah.
most of us with disability or chronic illness has felt that in our family, in our
Yep.
relationships, in our friendships. Like my friends in high school like would always have to pick me up and drive me to the party instead of
Yeah.
just driving themselves to the like just all those little things in which you feel like, oh, like they're always doing this for me and I'll never be able to do that for them. But I think for me, what I found in dating is finding the people, and they do exist, and it's harder to find them, but they do exist, and
Yeah.
you're so blessed when you get to find them.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that your lived experience of disability or chronic illness leads you to find those people.
That's true.
But like you will find that person who makes you feel that whatever it is about you, your disability or your chronic illness, makes you more than, not less than.
Yes, I
Like-
so agree. Like, it makes us stronger. Like, this has made me stronger. This has made me more positive.
More empathetic, more
More
compassionate. It's provided wisdom.
It's such an asset. Like, I'm like, my illness is such an asset. Everyone should have one. No, I'm kidding. But seriously, like, whenever I'm feeling down on myself, I'm like, oh, like, are they going to want someone with an illness? I'm like, well, actually, yeah, it's made me into a really awesome person. So,
And you know what? Like, I think that the empathy and compassion my disability has forced me to develop
yeah.
outweighs the fact that I can't drive.
Yeah.
Like, I just do. I just think that's more important to have in a relationship. And so I
agree.
feel like, well, yes, most people will look at you and not see all of that, right? Because you have to get to know somebody to see those things.
Mhm.
It's, again, always easier to see the negatives of disability and chronic illness than the
Yeah.
positives.
Yeah.
But the positives are there. And when you
Mhm.
take time to find them, you're like, oh, wow, these are so wonderful. Like, these are so worth it.
Yeah. And there's so much more to people. Like, you know, and I dated someone with my same disability, you know what I mean? In some ways, but I also had the chronic illness. So it's like there's different levels. Everyone has their own experience with chronic illness. Everyone has their own experience with disability. Everyone has like different connections. So that's also something I've kind of found. Like, it's not always enough to just be like, okay, well, we're besties now because we both have one eye, or we're besties now because we both have a chronic illness. Like, that can certainly bring people together, but like, we're so much more than just that. People say all the time, like, oh, your eye is like your whole personality. I'm like, what? No. It's just like maybe like one of the first things you might notice about me, but it's definitely not. Like,
And you know what? If your way of coping is to temporarily in this phase of your life make your eye your whole personality, like, so what?
Like, hello.
You have managed to take something that has been very traumatic and painful and turn it into something beautiful and positive. And I think that is
Yeah.
something that we can all learn from.
Thank you.
And now I've had this burning question,
Please ask it.
and I think it's time to ask the awkward question of the show.
Oh, is it awkward? Tell me everything.
Yes, it's fun to ask the awkward questions
Yeah.
because, you know, I've spent my whole life sharing with the world and answering questions like, how do you deal with your period if you can't see it?
Yeah.
And I'm like, I've realized how being vulnerable in that way and sharing that has
Yeah.
bridged those gaps.
Yeah.
And so I like to ask my guests an awkward question.
Do it.
And this one might not at face value seem awkward, but we all must remember I am blind.
Okay.
So,
yes.
the awkward question of today is, you are fully blind in one eye, and you're never going to get that eye back because you literally don't have it.
Mm-hmm.
Are you scared of losing vision in your other eye?
No, that's a great question, and it's not awkward at all. Don't worry. I guess I'm a little scared, but I don't really think about it that much, to be honest with you, because so now the theory is that the granuloma started because of valley fever. Valley fever is a fungal infection that kind of spreads throughout your body. But there are ways to manage valley fever in it's like very studied. It's really just antifungals. So I'm not terribly nervous anymore. But I was before I had any idea of what might have caused the granuloma. I was like, okay, what? We're just going to cross our fingers and hope it doesn't spread anywhere else, you know? Now that we might have an idea of what had caused the granuloma to begin with, I feel much more comfortable. But yeah, I still definitely go get my eye checked. I almost said eyes. Sad.
R.I.P.
I still get my eye checked. And she's doing great. Knock on wood. Dink, dink, dink. So I try not to live in too much fear. Obviously, I have to be cautious, you know. COVID is still out there. Obviously, I know it's caused issues for me, so I take caution when I'm out and about. I don't really go to, like, a ton of super congested areas, and if I do, I mask. So that's probably, like, the biggest thing. That's what I'm more scared about is getting COVID again. I've gotten it a second time, and it was just as bad. I had to be hospitalized again. Yeah, so, um, the other eye, though, I hope she hangs in there, and if she doesn't, I mean, that would be so crazy, and I would be so pissed at the universe, but, like, I would keep it moving, and we'd find a way to cope as well, so I can't control it. All I can do is trust my doctors and move forward.
Well, we would be thrilled to invite somebody so beautiful and charismatic and resilient as you into our community,
I do
but we
think of
hope to never
you.
have to.
Oh, yeah. I
We
mean,
hope for you.
I think of how you still thrive, so people think it would be, like, the end all be all, and of course, it would make life harder for me, but yeah, it's not like the world would end.
That's certainly what I try to show people is that,
Yeah.
like, yeah, it's not easy, but there is a beautiful, fulfilling, successful, happy life
I love that.
after vision loss, after hardship, after trauma. And
Yeah.
in your own way, you are also very much living proof of that for a different kind of person, dealing with a different kind of lived experience. I don't know about you, like I swing between these feelings of like all these rare, crazy, like things have happened to me. There's no way they're gonna keep happening. Like it's all in the past. And then I swing the other way and I'm like, no, I'm just somebody who rare crazy things happen to and they're gonna keep happening. So I like
Yeah.
go back and forth between feeling like, no, it's all done, I got it all over with, and like, no, this is just who I am, it's gonna keep happening.
Yeah, no, literally, I'm like, "Which is it gonna be? Am I the one where it's like, 'Oh, of course it happened to me,' or is it like I've paid my dues and now I'm on the up and up?" I don't know, 'cause I haven't really caught a break thus far, so I'm hoping this is the my time, but
Your break is coming, Chan. I feel it. Your break
babe,
is ahead for you.
I'm manifesting that into existence.
Well, we started this conversation with a very simple question, which was just who is Chan?
Yeah.
And now I want to end it with what is it really like to be Chan?
Most of the time, it's a lot of fun. I try to find joy in even the simplest moments. I think that's a big part of who Chan is finding joy and a positive spin when life throws crazy curveballs your way. Finding light in the darkness. But, Chan deals with a lot of grief. Chan deals with loss. And I think that's important in being a truly positive person. You have to be able to acknowledge the lows and the hard parts as well. I don't think that means that you're negative. I don't think that means that you're doing this wrong. I'm just a person trying to navigate something really wild the best she can and make the most out of it. And I'm having a lot of fun doing it, actually. It's not all great, but most of it has been pretty lovely.
I think you're playing your hand of cards as well as you possibly could be.
Thank you. This deck is awful. Who came
But you're
up with
playing a
this?
good game.
Oh, thank you.
You're playing a really good
Am I
game with them. Yeah, you're winning.
Do you want to see my eye patches? Oh, I'm sorry, I keep saying see. What I mean is touch.
I would like to see your eye patches, can
Okay,
I?
yes.
What do you see? What do you see here?
I do. I see. I see with my hands. My hands are my eyes.
I'm
So, like,
so
touching is how I
sorry.
see the world.
It's like an impulse for me to say that. Yeah. Okay. Yay.
No.
Oh my gosh. Okay. Here we go. Thank you. Here we go.
Oh my, what the heck? This is like nothing I could have ever. Can I, I can't put it on, I guess, because I've got headphones.
It's a seashell. With a pearl. That's a pearl you're feeling.
Where did you even get this?
It's from China.
Oh my God.
Careful, there's a little stabby part. Yeah, there you go. There you go.
Slay.
That's so good.
You're such a mermaid.
It's
Oh my
so
God. I don't know if you've ever done this, but if you haven't, you need to do like a photo shoot on the beach, like in a like beautiful bikini
I
wearing
love that
this, like
idea.
at sunset. Oh my
I love. Here,
God.
I'll trade you for the next one. That
These are like face art,
that
like wearable.
that one is embroidered. It's rainbow. It's all these different colors embroidered, like 3D. It looks like an anemone almost.
And there's all these beads?
Yes, yes. All the beads and the thread is colorful too. So it's like pink and blue and white and purple thread. And then there's the little Velcro strap. And all the beads are like orange and green and purple and blue and pink. And it's so fun. That's one of my favorites.
So good.
I'm going to give you a metal flower next.
What?
Yeah.
Who knew so many cool eye patches existed?
That one's also one of my favorites. I wore it for my birthday. It's so flat on the back, and then the front is like 3D
Is the
purple
flat
flowers.
uncomfy? Like the flat back? I feel like it would be more uncomfy than the domed one.
It used to be when I had the eye, I could never wear, flat because it would press against the proptotic eye. But now I don't have an eyeball, so what's it going to hurt?
How cute would I be?
You look so
Slay.
good. It's purple. It's like purple and green with some rhinestones in the middle of the flowers. This one I think will be fun for you to feel because it's fake flowers with like little pearls as the stamens.
So dainty. Like
Isn't that
so pretty and
fun?
dainty.
And then I think one of the last ones I'll show is like my classic leather because it's so fun to feel these. Hold on, I'll trade you. So that one has a night sky painted on it.
Wow.
It's got stars. I wish you could like see the light on them, but they don't really reflect that much. But hopefully they're still fun to feel and you can kind of get a sense of
That's really cool.
what it's like to wear them. Those are the most comfortable for me.
The leather ones?
The leather, those are like my everyday, and I get them custom painted.
Fun.
Yes. I really should figure out how to make them myself. I would save a lot of money.
We need an eye patch sponsor for
yeah.
Chan here.
Please.
Well, where can everybody keep up with you on the internet and see all your incredible looks?
I'm Chan Plant, ChanPlante, on pretty much everything. But yeah, I love sharing my fun eyes and my fun eye patches. Sometimes I match my makeup to them and just sharing the love. You don't have to have lost an eyeball. You can just be going through it. And we'll
Can confirm. I have not lost an eyeball and I love your content. You just have such an infectious personality and
an
I
infectious disease.
Look at that. Well, thank you so much for coming and she was like, "Is there anything I should prepare for the conversation?" I was like, "Could you bring some eyeballs? Is that weird to ask?" So thank you for bringing your eyeballs and your eye patches and your beautiful, lovely, radiant self to this conversation.
Thank you for being so lovely and putting so many of my own thoughts into eloquent wording. It's really so lovely to feel like heard, and I know you don't have a ton of vision, but to feel seen by someone is like really, really lovely. So I appreciate you.
Well, I feel like this is a new friendship. I felt like we've been friends through a screen for years now. And now that I know we live 10 minutes away from each other,
I know!
This will be now an IRL friendship. And I'm very excited. So thank you for being so vulnerable with the world and sharing your story. And if you haven't already, make sure you're following Chan. Make sure you're also following the What It's Really Like podcast over on Spotify if you're watching on my YouTube channel. Thank you so much for sticking with us and for listening. And now you know what it's really like.